Hey guys, we are back for the continued episode of our review into the Tigers forward pack for 2024. As you'll probably remember, we finished off with Alex Seafarth. We've got a couple of current players left to go before we get into the rookies and finish with some big questions. Leave you to it. See you next week.
We were once all strangers, became good friends over time, seeking retribution. We got winning on our mind. We've got to cross the line.
I mentioned that Alex Twal was one of three players that need to have massive preseasons for us in order to do anything. One of them, the second one is Fanua Bole. 23 games this year, 4 tries, averaged 10 runs a game for 95 metres, so 9.5 metres per carry. That's actually quite impressive. 3 line breaks for 41 tackle breaks, again, quite impressive. 7 offloads, a tackle efficiency percentage of 86%. 7 try causes, 12 line break causes, 3 errors, 8 penalties. Now, first of all, attacking-wise, we know he's great. He can do some really great things with the football. He can tuck it under the arm and he can scatter defenders. We can put a bit of late footwork on. His time at 13's allowed him to develop a pass. He can throw an offload. He doesn't throw them often, but he can. But Fanua's biggest issue is defensively. I think that his rib injury he never fully recovered from, and I think he was getting needles towards the back end of the year. There was some misses that he made against Manly that were just glaringly obvious. They were really, really poor. Look, Fanua's going to be elite anyway. That much is true. For him to be his age, for him to have the role that he does in this side, at 22 years of age as a front rower, speaks to his talent. So shout out Adam Hardigan because that was a fucking good signing. But unfortunately for Fanua, we called upon him too early when he debuted. He had a massive role last year and something that he probably wasn't ready for. And we're going to need him to go to another level again. And Marshall's going to have to say to him in preseason, look, your cousin's gone and you have to fill the void. And I think he will. His application to training is amazing. He's in the gym every day. Like he's been in the gym every day since the season wrapped up. That's the type of guy he is. And I know there's all this fanfare about his re-signings and everything like that. At the moment, I just want to focus on 2025. He is so pivotal if we're going to do anything of note next year. Whatever it is, he is so important, and it starts with his contact in defence.
Yeah, I think defense. It's good that there's only simple things that he needs to work on. Like he's almost the finished article when it comes to ball in hand, middle forward. Like which is incredible because he's only 22, so he's only going to get better with it.
Yep.
But obviously, he just needs to work on his defense. Probably, the fact that he sort of disappears a little bit in defense or can be beaten laterally is a sign that he might need to get his fitness level up. So, and as you say, he will live in the gym. He did the same thing last year. He was the first person back last year, training with all of the train and trialists and the development squad players. You said that the word on the street is he's doing it again. He's not ever going to be like a tall guy. Like he's obviously stopped growing in height. So he's going to need to probably get bigger, I reckon, to really fully, he's going to need to continue to develop physically and continue to, become a bit more of like a Marty Tap to power kind of frame player, I think, over time. Because he is a bit small, I think. Like he's heavy. He's only about the same weight as Seyfarth. So, no, I rate him. I think he's really, really good. I question why he was underutilized this year with how poor our middle forwards were performing. I would have picked him and stuck with him in the starting prop role. I would have just picked him and stuck there whole season, frankly. I don't really understand why he wasn't. I don't see him much as a 13 because he doesn't really offer much. Like he doesn't offer that sort of 13 style of play. Like he's a good ball runner, but he's not as good of a link player as many others.
No, he's not a 13.
No, he's not a 13. I think that they just get tempted into throwing him into 13 a lot because they, need a bigger body in that role, like I said before. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that a lot will come down to him, but I'm glad it's him because I have faith in him, the guy. I rate him a
Oh,
lot. One of the
me,
things that's interesting to me is I wonder, and this is pure speculation, and there's not really, much conversation that'll come off the back of it. But with Stefano moving to Melbourne and them keeping Nelson and the, emergence of Lazarus, whatever his name is, I wonder if we end up with younger Pole,
fair question. I'm not too sure. Look, the first thing
he's
they
a
need to look
mountain.
at, oh, he is so big. For those
He's
who
about
haven't
6'7".
For those who haven't seen Sully Bolle, he's 6'6",
Mm,
built like a brick shithouse,
mhm.
and has sizable raps. Not as big as his brother, but he can play.
He's a
Look,
very good player. Like
yeah,
he played in the side that won this. I believe he played in the side that won the Victorian side that beat the New South Wales schoolboy side this year.
yeah, he did. Look, well, this is all wonderful to sort of think about, but look, we have to retain Fanua. I think that West Tigers will be a little bit more desperate in the wake of losing Stefano. I hope that it doesn't turn into a circus and he's wrapped up before November 1. But I'm not too sure. I think his management might advise him to go to market, but we're just going to have to wait and see. But for 2025, irrespective of what happens in the future, he is so important, and I know how committed he is to bettering himself as a player, and hopefully, and I look, he will take that next step. It's just a matter of when. I just hope it's in the preseason before 2025.
Yeah.
All right, last one of the current players before we talk about the Rooks. Samuel Afinu. Probably, actually, no, he was our best buy. 23 games, 5 tries, 2 try assists. Was averaging 9 runs for a meterage of 84 meters. So while I say that the back row carries are a little bit more skewed, and Samuel did spend some time in the middle, the majority of his time was on an edge, and he was carrying for 9.3 meters a game. Made 7 line breaks across the season and 37 tackle breaks. He had 12 offloads. 86% tackle efficiency in the back row as a rookie. Again, it needs work, but you can understand that it's his first season of first grade. Surprisingly, he had 15 try causes and 21 line break causes, so there is obviously work to be done, and 12 errors and 5 penalties, but I cannot believe Manly gave us his kid. Like, for the first, I'm going to say 16 weeks of the season, the last little bit, he fell by the wayside and had some inconsistent performances. But at the same time, it was his first year. It was his first full year of first grade, for God's sake. Like, I'm not, this isn't me criticizing him at all. Like, it was his first year as a professional athlete. He is like nothing I've ever seen. He is skillful. He is devastating. He can hurt you on either side of the ball. He's good in the air. Like, Jeremiah Nenai is the gold standard, for young back rowers. But fuck, if Samuel ties up his defense, like, seriously, I think he's just as good. Like, yeah, that's the class that I have him in. He is a diamond. Like,
Yeah,
I love watching him go to work.
I agree, man. I think he has New South Wales origin written all over him, and I don't think it'll be far away. He's not the sort of kid I expect to have a second year syndrome at all. If anything, I think he'll improve. He has crazy good work ethic. He is a leader on the field at the age of 20. He's like what's crazy is that he does all of that skillful stuff that you want back rowers to do, but he's the size of a devastating prop. So
He's 194 centimeters.
yeah, and like I said last week, I think in the end he'll end up there. He'll probably have a bit of a Joseph Tarpany kind of career arc. I've said that before. Yeah, it's a good summary, man. He's one to hang your hat on.
Oh yeah,
And we'll it's unfortunate for him that Lachlan Galvin exists, or he would have been the most obvious rookie of the year the club's ever had.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I look in a year where there was a lot of negatives and a lot of questions. There was more questions than answers. He answered so many questions.
Yeah,
I have a view that if we do not sign anybody between now and round one, that I wouldn't mind seeing him in the middle, just because I think we're lacking a Samuel Afino in the middle. But I would prefer to leave him out on that left wing, left edge rather, not a wing.
well, apparently he wanted to play in the middle. Like when he came over, it's like I want to be a middle, and like like a lot of kids, he unlike a lot of kids, when they called on him to play out in a different position, he was like, "Yeah, I'll do what's best for the team." I just love that. Like at no point did I feel like, he felt like he was too big for the game.
No,
The kids of that talent level, especially coming into a system like the Tigers, I was really worried that that he was going to have that kind of approach to things, like, and be a little bit like of a, I don't know, like, too good for the place kind of character, but far from it. Far from it. Like he's going to be a special talent, that one.
I think again what you just said about his commitment and his desire and his work ethic and his selfless nature. Again, he has all the talent in the world, but that man management, I think, is evidence that whatever Benji is saying to these kids
Yeah.
is working. Like,
Yeah. And as if you wouldn't want to keep Sione at the club and just like build around the three finals. Like, because they're all so good. Like, what a supremely talented football family, but not like in terms of their skill on the field, but they all just seem like the perfect guys to build the culture of a club around, a family. Like they could be like our Trebojevic family. Like, look after them, you know, persevere with them through the hard times if they even come. Because, like, let's face it, all three of them look like they're actually just going to be quality. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I really want to try to find a position in the starting 17 for Latu. It's a more intangible reason, but it's
Yeah.
one of the reasons. Like I think he's just obviously in our best 17 players, but we'll talk about Latu next week, I think.
yeah, it's either that or the week after. But yeah, we'll talk about that when the time comes. But look, those are our current staples, and I hope everybody enjoyed that chat. I want to jump into the rookies. I'm going to start from the bottom again because our two favourites are at the top. So Chris Fangutu. Look, I don't have any stats here. I just want to talk about him a little bit. In the relatively little that I did see of him, he was a cut above Flegg every single time. He put that team on his back and he dragged them. He's still high effort, high leg speed. He loves carting the ball off the back fence, and there is so much to work with. In the relative little I did see of him in New South Wales Cup, again, like a lot of young forwards, a lot of young small forwards, there's some work to do defensively. But the player that we fell in love with watching him play Langer Cup in Queensland, and then playing for Queensland in the Origin 19s last year, he's still there.
Yeah, it's still
And he had a disrupted year with a couple of injuries and some suspensions, but next year, I think there is absolutely a spot waiting for him on the bench in New South Wales Cup. I think with another year, he will take another step forward and he will begin to develop into the player that we hoped he would be. My only knock on Chris is that obviously he's been given a top 30 contract, and that's not his fault, and I congratulate him for it. But we probably need more from him than what we're getting. But in saying that, there is absolutely a player still there, and I don't know whether or not he features in future plans, but I'm excited to see, providing he remains at West Tigers for 2025 and beyond, where he goes on his career. What do you think of Chris at the minute?
He's a player who we don't really have too many of at the club, like in terms of what he offers. I haven't seen him heaps. So to the degree where I can't really comment too much on what his defensive stoutness is like and things like that. But in terms of like his archetype, like he's a bit unique really around the whole NRL. Like there's not too many guys. He's like I don't know, like a player like Nathan Brown comes to mind, like a small guy that just runs like a freight train, with like self-preservation out the window.
Good call. Good call.
But he didn't make the transition to New South Wales Cup as seamlessly as I expected. Like I thought he would like dominate New South Wales Cup, frankly, this year. And I kind of feel like that might have come down to the fact that like he was always underdone. Like kids of that age, often they have to build into form. They go round into form. They don't know how to do the prep to be able to hit the ground running that like the experienced players do.
That's very true.
But once he did get some games under his belt back in flag, towards the back end of the year in flag, like he was putting up some ridiculous numbers. Like he was doing 200 meters a game, scoring 2 tries, like as a starting prop, playing prop. And I do think he is a prop. But like, you know, at a club where we seem to always want to play like a hard running forward as a 13, maybe he is an option there. Like as Bolle moves more into that replacement of Stefano role, wearing the number 8, maybe Fargutu sooner than we think might crystallize into that 13. But I think he'll start. I think he'll be a starting prop in New South Wales Cup. I don't think that he'll play much more flag next year. But it'll, you know, as long as he has a big off season, anything's possible for a kid with that much talent. Like he was one of the best on ground in the rep fixture that Sam Weller played against him in, and you know, he looked every bit as good as Sam Weller on that night. And look where Sam Weller's at now.
Well, yeah, that's right. That's the blueprint, and that's where he needs to get to. So, look, I'm hoping for a big preseason from him, and as you said, hopefully he can begin to make that impact at cup level that we hoped he could this year. Tony Suka, he flirted between middle and edge in New South Wales Cup. I'll just give you his stats from his one game. It was about 10 minutes in Spoon Bowl. One game, 3 runs, 25 metres. He averaged 8.3 a carry. No line breaks, but 1 tackle break. No offloads, and didn't miss a tackle. For West Magpies, he played 15 games, did not get off the nudie. He had 7. He averaged 7 runs per game for 70.6 metres, so 10 metres a carry. So for a kid his size, that's not too bad. Obviously, I know it's cut, but for young Tony, that's all right. No line breaks because he's very no frills, but 9 tackle breaks, 12 offloads, and a tackle efficiency percentage of 92.4. Mate, Tony's another one of those guys out of the Balmain system, similar to Alex Seyfarth, where he just has these intangibles where trains hard, plays hard, he's high effort, works on his game all the time, quite professional in the way he goes about his business. I don't think he's a world beater. I don't think he's a player that's going to set the world on fire. But I think if he is retained at the club, because I'm not too sure if he will be, I think he may be a guy where he's not a consistent first grader. But if called upon, I think he can do a job. What do you think?
Based on what I've seen, I don't necessarily agree. Like what he's shown so far, even in New South Wales Cup, it hasn't really like done it much for me. But I will say, the foundations are there. Like the defensive stoutness is important. Like for a kid of his age to have that tackle efficiency in New South Wales Cup is impressive. But unless that stuff actually translates into flashes on the field, he's never going to be given the opportunities to be factored into the game plan enough to be anything more than, as you say, a no frills forward. And as far as no frills forwards go, we have too many of them. Like that's not what we're looking for as a club. We're not looking for another person to be Clemmer or Twoll or Seyfarth or whatever. We're looking for points of difference. To me, that's why I asked you before, like who you were rather on the roster between him and Porter. Like Porter is more of a point of difference to me than Tony. And then you could, you know, obviously you could make the argument we're also like lacking enormously in the defensive department. So having more stout defensive players on the field is also important. I get that. But yeah, I think that it's really hard to say what sort of player he's going to turn into. There's obviously something there to work with, and good luck to the kid. Not going to write him off But based on what I've seen, I would have him probably like number 30 on the roster.
Yeah, look, and I get that, and that's in terms of ranking, that's probably where I'd seen too. Again, I'm just coming from the point of view of while we do probably need points of difference, I would argue that we need points of difference in the middle of the field. Tony, I don't think he's big enough to play in the middle in first grade, despite the fact that he's done it in reserve grade. So with that in mind, and what he has shown defensively, I think there is upside to him. You can build a bloke. You can build a bloke two different ways, and if he has that, that defensive effort and that defensive aptitude, then you can sort of build the attacking game on top of that. But again,
That's true.
he was given a top 30 contract too early. I completely agree with you. I think it's far too early. But at the end of the day, this is the reality that we live in. The club has, in the past, cleared some spots out of some low earners, come preseason. I don't know if Tony will be one of those guys, and quite frankly, I hope that he isn't. But sometimes that's a bit of the reality. But look, I think he's a solid footballer. Where his ceiling is, I'm really not too sure, because every single grade that he plays, he seems to play to it. But look, he's a battler, and I love a rugby league battler. But as you say, you can't have too many of them.
Yeah, if we're going to have more, like, this is what I would like, is somebody with his sort of defensive numbers and like the defensive mindedness, but with the mongrel, right? That's sort of what we're missing. Like we've got some like guys like Samuela who have the spirit and the attitude, but they're missing the defensive side of it. Like we need the defensive tone setter in the team. That's the player I think we're missing.
Yeah, I agree with you. Kit Lauliti, just quickly, he had one game against Canberra. He actually played in his brother's debut, which is pretty cool. Played that game just quickly. So 3 runs for 23 metres at an average carry of 7.6. He had a tackle efficiency percentage that day of 83%. He had 2 line break causes. So I'm sure you know where this conversation is going. In New South Wales Cup, he had 19 games, average 8 runs at 63.7 metres per game. That's an average of about 7.9 metres. As a lock, look, that's not too bad, but you would expect a little bit more of a prospecting cup. 1 line break for 10 tackle breaks. He had 1 offload and a tackle efficiency percentage of 89.6%. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Kit is a long way off where he needs to be. He's not worthy of a top 30 contract right now. I understand that he's a young man, that he's still trying to work out his game in the washing machine that is New South Wales Cup. I think he has some really good qualities. I think his leadership in that 2022 Harold Matt side was exceptional, and he really, really did well to bring those boys together. I think he's got great leg speed. He can throw a beautiful pass. So he has that to his game. But as a lock, your most important job is being rock solid in defence, and Kid, unfortunately, has not been that in 2025 in any grade he's played, and that includes Ron Massey Cup. So with that in mind, he needs a rocket. He does. And look, I think Kit will be kept around because a lot of his friends and his family are involved at the club, but he has a massive preseason ahead of him if he wants a future at West Tigers, let alone the NRL.
Yeah, I don't think I was never really all that impressed with him when I watched him play in the juniors in that really good side, to be honest. I never really, and he never got picked in the rep sides and stuff like that, unlike the guys around him, but he was always the captain. And he was always the captain in that team. He was the captain at in the school team, Westfields, I think. I think he was the flag captain at the start of the year, maybe. I don't know for sure, but so something tells me that he has it in him. Like he has it in him to figure out how to cut himself out a role. But to me, that's feels likely to be his ceiling if he can figure out how to just make himself functional.
That's fair. I get it.
And because he does have that one string to his bow that you touched on, which is he's a bit of a silky passer. and he doesn't shirk contact, which is good.
He loves it. He revels in it.
He runs straight and he runs hard, but doesn't seem to. On the flip side, I don't know whether he has such poor lateral defense that it just looks like it, or he actually does avoid trying to make certain tackles at certain times. And I think that was the highlight in Ron Massey Cup you referred to. Like he got posted like walking back to the 10-meter line, and it was really quite vivid for that grade. So yeah, it's a shame really that our previous administration didn't have the patience that Richo has, which is knowing that you can sort of wait until the 11th hour to fill out those bottom parts of your roster, because when things move around, you end up getting good value. You know, you might get somebody for 180K because another club's paying 100K of freight, and then you've got a player that's actually got NRL experience that you're paying the same as Kit.
Yep.
Whereas our previous administration were just like, oh shit, nobody's coming to this club. We can't make signings. Oh shit, oh fuck, we better just stitch up the whole Harold Matt's team and Tony and whoever else. So yeah.
Yeah, that was Tim Sheen's and Warren McDonald's ingenuity. Look, we're here to pay the price of it, and that's it. Again, he needs a massive preseason. I've got no doubt that was mentioned in his end of year review. You know, I hear Talon and Lockie and Luke Lally talk about how, you know, they have this telepathy amongst them, these boys that have played together since they were kids, you know, Jordan Miller, etc. They always mention Kit, and they have so much respect for Kit. But if Kit wants to play with these boys, he needs to get some fucking respect for himself. And that's it. One of the boys he did play with that day on 2022 Harold Matt's Grand Final day was the big behemoth, Jordan Miller.
The mascot. He's the mascot of the potty.
Yeah, he's one of the potty favourites. We love it. We love a front rower. We love a cup front rower. We've left our two favourites till last. I'll just run through his NRL stats quickly. 2 games, no tries. He averaged 4 runs a game for 30 metres, an average carry of 7.5. No tackle breaks or line breaks, no offloads, which is quite interesting for Jordan, and a tackle efficiency percentage of 86. In Cup was a little bit different. So 19 games, 3 tries. He's averaging 10 runs a game for 93 metres, so 9.3 metres a carry. 3 line breaks, 29 tackle breaks, 20 offloads. So he's averaging more than 1 offload per game, and a tackle efficiency percentage of 90.3. Look, I just want to say, first and foremost, we had Miller watch at the beginning of the year, and it was basically just to look at his stats and, most importantly, his minutes. I've seen this kid play SG ball. I've seen this kid play New South Wales Cup. I've seen him play first grade. He hasn't brought it out in first grade yet, but there are times when he goes chasing the game. He'll take 2 hit-ups a set. He'll be throwing balls off both hips. He can offload. He can get a quick play of the ball, and he can whack a bloke in defence. He has all of those things in his wheelhouse. There is a reason why Wayne Bennett and the Redcliffe Dolphins chased him so hard a couple of years back. He has everything except the conditioning and the mental fortitude. And once he has that, my God, he is going to be something special. Do I think he's going to be that guy in 2025? No, I don't. I will flat out say that I think he's still 2 preseasons away, possibly 3. But we have such a good footballer on our hands. I just hope that Jordan realises a little bit like Taniela Paseka is, I just hope that the penny drops, at some point. I know how much you love him, Mac. I'll let you go.
At the start of the year, we had a conversation about, along the same lines as what you just said. Your opinion was that he was too far off because of his conditioning, and like my counterpoint to that, which is what made me confident he was going to get a debut, was that when players like him offer the things that they offer at the size that they have, that they just get given opportunities. So regardless of whether I thought he was going to hit first grade and just hit the ground running and be a legend, it gave me the confidence to know that I was pretty sure he was going to get thrown in at some point. And I think that, he didn't really show anything. Like in first grade, he didn't get enough time, not enough minutes on the field. He was probably told to keep his role relatively limited. He was probably he probably knew he was only there to just get a taste for it. Like, so
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't think you really saw the real Jordan Miller in first grade. So I think it's more important to focus on his New South Wales Cup stats. And for a kid of that age, who the knock on him is conditioning, I think that is a really good stats for open age, second best league in the country. Like his meters per carry were really high. Like his involvements were really high. He flashed constantly. He had some bad days. There was a couple of games there where he was really off the pace, and the coach actually held him out of the like brought his minutes down when he wasn't really there. There was one game there, I think, when I recall him like giving one of the trainers or the on-field trainers a gobful, and like he's up or down, but also like featured heavily in the best moments in that team this year. Like that try where Talon scored that like runaway try to win us the game. Like when
He threw the pass.
and not he, oh man, he threw that pass, but he had two involvements on that play. He took the initial hit up, threw an offload,
That's right.
and then got back around and caught the pass to. No, that was the Felitti try. Sorry.
No, but you're right. He was involved in
Yeah.
at 2 points. He took that play 1, play 2 hit up. He offloaded. The ball sort of scattered around a little bit and pinballed. He then got the ball and he threw it wide. And out of nowhere, Josh Folletti made a break.
Yeah, that's right.
His game awareness for a front rower his age is exceptional.
He has the
skills.
he has-
And the skills.
He has Lachlan Galvin inside him. Think about it. It's like
What? Because he ate him.
they take on the same. They have the same approach to how they take the game on.
Yes.
And obviously Miller's role is different. So most of the time he's doing the forward thing, but when he feels like he has to take the game on, he looks like a monstrous version of Lachlan Galvin in like the way he attacks the game. And the fact that they've been like joined at the hip for so many years really makes me think that those two have just really developed together and have a very similar mentality and mindset towards the game. He's one of the boys. He's the big one. The rest of them, they're all like skill players and they're all like young and talented. But
Jordan is a skill player, bro.
he's a skill. I think. What do I expect from him next year, though? I expect him to play probably at least 10 NRL games, at least. I expect him to have some really good moments. I expect him to struggle.
Yeah.
But I do expect you'll start to see what makes him good in the NRL, and very quickly people will fall in love with that guy. Like when he starts doing the stuff that you saw in New South Wales Cup on Friday Night Football, can you imagine the rhetoric that Fittler and Johns are going to go on about with him?
Oh, yeah. Oh, he is going to be. He's already a cult hero amongst Rusted on West Tiger supporters, but mate, some of these kids we've got coming through, you can just tell they're going to be a commentator's dream. They are.
Yeah. And the thing is that the sooner that we can just get them all on the field together and they're not drowning because they're on the field together. I don't think that they need to necessarily be winning, but as soon as they're the best player for the position in the 17, they need to be in there and they need to be staying there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll back that, mate. But in saying that, I think Jordan's a little way off. But
you're probably like only the first cab off the rank prop on the depth chart right now, at least.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's a fair point, man. Last one, and I apologize to his dad, Adam, if he is listening, and I hope he is, because we're going to wrap him.
Yeah, we intentionally kept him to last, so you had to listen to the whole cast.
Yeah, we don't time code it, Adam, just so that way you listen all the way through. It's good for our engagement. Tim Johansson, look, incredible story. Went from, I believe, Sydney Shield through Run Massey Cup, up through State Cup, and into first grade.
That's cool.
And these were his stats that night. One game, 4 runs for 34 metres, an average carry of 8.5 metres. No line breaks, but 2 tackle breaks, no offloads, and a tackle efficiency percentage of 84%. He actually conceded a penalty, so I'm sure that would have came out in video. For West Magpies, 15 games, 3 tries, 1 try assist, one of which was incredible, the try that he scored against the Warriors. He's averaging 13 runs a game for 134 metres. That is 10.3 metres per carry. That might just be the best on this list. 5 line breaks, 49 tackle breaks, 12 offloads, and a tackle efficiency percentage of 92.1%. I don't know how on earth this kid just turned up to trial for Wright Eastwood, and they quickly identified him. And it's a credit to former West Tigers lower grades player Jared Farlow that he was able to promote him. Eventually, he became Aaron Payne's pet project, and out of nowhere, amongst a few injuries, he was called upon to do a job in first grade. Mate, I see such a good footballer in his future. He's got leg speed, he's got intent, he's got great line speed. He's committed. He's stable off field. Like he just has so much upside. And you look at his ceiling, and this is a kid who was just doing his own conditioning and was probably in the gym 3-4 days a week and was doing some field sessions by himself to keep himself fit and healthy in preseason. Can you imagine? And I know that we've given, probably given Peter Musa the rough end of the stick, but with an NRL conditioning program, with time in the gym, learning off first grade players, I'm just really, really excited. Again, we've done exceptionally well to retain him on a 2-year part-time deal. I think that, by the end of that deal, potentially midway through it, he'll be upgraded to a full-time contract. But, mate, the biggest thing for Tim is just he needs to put weight on. He's 196 centimetres and he's 98 kilos. He's a fucking string bean. He can put some weight on.
I mean, based on
Put some weight on, he'll be exceptional. But in saying that, as you're about to say, based on what he's produced, he may not need it. But genuinely, I do believe the sky is the limit for him.
What I was going to say is that what you're reading there is based on the last time that he went on the scales and reported it to somebody who put it on the internet. There's
That's very true.
You never know what he weighs right now by the end of the season, but he doesn't look that small to me. He doesn't look that weight. Like he looks like one of the biggest kids on the field when he's playing New South Wales Cup, and he certainly plays heavy. I think that there's something. Forgive me if I wasn't supposed to say this out loud, but Adam mentioned, he's not got that top 30 deal. He said, they should upgrade him before the season begins, which made me think that sort of was mentioned. The way he said it to me, made me think that that was given to Tim as a possibility. We can't put you on top 30 right now, but if you do this and you do that, we'll move you into the top 30, which, probably plays into that whole idea that you have of we're probably still moving players around. Who is Tim Johansson? I think Tim Johansson is probably one of the more thoughtful, introspective players that I've sort of observed in a very long time. For somebody who really doesn't just think about the game of football, Lachlan Galvin is footy, right? He just thinks about football. That's what makes him so good. Tim thinks about football in the context of his life. And at some point, the penny just dropped for him. And he's on record saying that he was just holding the football and looked at it and he was like, I actually make this my life. I can make something out of this. And from that minute forward, you saw a completely different human being to any version of Tim Johansson that any other rugby league pathways coach or, scout or head of pathways had ever seen before. Otherwise, he would have been already in somebody's system. And that is exciting because if he's able to do that because of one penny drop moment mentally, if he's able to go and become that guy who managed to go from like not even at a roster to Sydney Shield to Ron Massey Cup to New South Wales Cup to NRL inside not only inside the space of one season, but he debuted like in like round 20 or something. Like it was. Do you remember the exact round?
No, but I can look it up. You're right. It was within the space of a few months. We played at Leichhardt that night. He played in round 22
Round
against
22.
the Cowboys in that crazy game. Played 26 minutes.
Yeah. So and he went from like Ron Massey Cup to New South Wales Cup pretty early in the season, but like that's a you see players like that sometimes where they'll like, Tom Hazelton is a good example, like where they'll like emerge a bit later and they will rise, but not that quick. Like that's unheralded quick.
Yeah, that's quick.
To get to like not even on a roster to first grade. And not only that, but on the way through, probably was our best New South Wales. I don't even know. Is it even probably? Like, was there a better player in a New South Wales Cup team this year than him? I don't think so. Brent Naden, maybe. But like to do what he's done is exceedingly exciting because he's still so young. And if he has that mentality, like that's able to extract the maximum potential out of himself like that, like what ceiling does he have? Because even if you translate those stats, those New South Wales Cup stats, if you translate them directly to NRL, and I see no reason why he couldn't, you're looking at a quality NRL player. And then there's got to be more. Like there were some games in New South Wales Cup where he was doing 180 meters on like 17, 18 carries, 5 tackle breaks. Like that's an elite prop. I think he had, and if you're right about his weight, like he does need to at that 196 centimeters, he does need to be playing at about 108 kilos really in the NRL just to survive the week in week out grind.
Agreed.
But if he does do that, you're looking at like a potential like forwards like pack leader. Like he could, I look at the way he plays, his approach to the game, his mindset, his approach to himself, and his leadership potential, and I see potential. Like we might have walked us backwards into like a starting prop pack leader.
We may well have seriously lucked out there. Again, he's one of a few that I'm really just keen to see how he takes the preseason and how he comes out the other side. But again, with professional conditioning, being in a proper gym, being around first grade players, getting first grade coaching, whether or not you're rate Marshall or not, that's
it'll be better than what he's been doing.
my point. So it's really interesting and exciting. And what I love about him is his attitude, as you mentioned, and his mindset. Some players can get their debut, they go back to New South Wales Cup and they have poor performances. I think
he got better.
He put in one of his best performances.
Yeah.
So
and he said, what he said after his first grade? He's like, we were all singing his praises. Obviously, he didn't have a huge minutes and huge, but we were like, that was a great stint. Put him back out there.
Yeah.
And, you can see when you look at the stats breakdown, 82% tackle efficiency conceded a penalty. So there was obviously room for improvement. And that's what he took away from it. Like, he didn't go, I didn't get enough time. I wish I got more. I loved it. I really, like, he came back and he went, I didn't do good enough.
Yeah.
And that was the week after that he scored that match-winning try in New South Wales Cup.
Speaks to his character, mate. Look, we have reviewed every single forward at the club except for
the new ones.
We'll do that at a later date. I want to know, can this current crop improve enough for us to climb the ladder? Do you think that there is enough for the improvement in them in a preseason to get us to where we need to be? Again, talking about the Bolles, the Twals, the Samuelas, the Seafarts, your lesser players, your Millers, your Johanssons. Like, is there enough improvement in these boys?
I mean, if you're talking about going from 17th to 16th, I think there is.
Oh no, I'm going higher than that.
Can they make the 8? Can we make the 8 with this pack? Is that the proposition?
You know what? Let's do that. Can we make the 8 with this pack?
Well, I think that we're an outside,
including Royce Hunt, Jack Bird. Sorry, but yes,
I think so. But if we do, I don't think it's going to necessarily be because of them. I think that they're good enough that with the improvements to the back line, especially with Jerome Luai arriving and Taruva and Skelton like taking the pressure off of them, that there's enough quality, hardworking, like it's a good mix. There's the kids that are part of the crew.
Yep.
And that's going to be good for the culture. And then there's the hard workers that are going to help them keep their heads on straight, like Joe Hansen. And then there's a bit more of this Bird coming in to add a bit of experience there. And it's a little bit like, okay, we've lost quality. Papali'i is quality. Utoikamanu is quality. He showed that at the start of the year. If we lose Bateman, he's obviously the most experienced player in the side. There's a loss of quality. But with what they were doing on the field, in the case of Uto Ekamanu and Bateman, and maybe what they were doing to the playing group's mindset, maybe there's some addition by subtraction, even in that regard. Maybe you get a better mix, and maybe that has a better effect on other players. Maybe somebody like Samuela with a bit more space to lead, that helps him go to another level. Maybe Sione with like less players in front of him to compete with gets some more playing time on the field, and suddenly you see an acceleration in his development. So to answer your question, I do see it. I'm not saying it's a guarantee though. Far from it. There's obvious weaknesses. I would be very confident if we were able to sign one more high quality prop. But it doesn't seem likely unless PJ's mail is on the money with Haas. But that would be a bit of a surprise, wouldn't it?
It would. Maybe we just leave that under wraps. Look, with that in mind, I've stewed over this for a little while, and it's what this current crop needs in order to go to that next level. And mate, the more I think about it, it's just an elite player. Whether it's a middle or an edge player, they just need an elite player. And if they can find that, then that will help us so much. And that will lift the floor, and suddenly it creates a little bit more depth. Again, if it's a back rower, you move Samuela to the middle. If it's a middle, then you keep Samuela where he is. That's just sort of what I'm thinking. It's not, look, ideally you'd probably sign a couple of guys. You know, you'd sign a middle, an edge, and a 13, and you'd round it out. But in order to just what they need, I just think we just need somebody who is going to show the way forward.
Elite mentally as well, though.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because you could go out there and sign like $1 million player, but if they rock up and they just do what all of our other like marquee signings always do, that's to me that you got to nail that almost more than the physical.
Yep. I agree. Though I have one last question for you, mate. And it's something that we have sort of spoken about a little bit, but can better conditioning see a lot of the improvement that we require for this forward pack to get to the level that we need it to?
Let me frame that question in a different way. If Shane Flanagan was coaching this roster, would we have been a better team this year?
Yes.
Well, then the answer is yes, right? Because that's what he hangs his hat on. The amount of improvement that he got out of the Dragons by pretty much just rocking up and saying, you're all unfit and focusing entirely on fitness and strength.
Yep.
Says it all to me. I think, yeah, of course. I think that I'm a firm believer, honestly, in that the approach to coaching and the approach to player management and the approach to the roster matters far more than the actual individuals in the team.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because and it maybe I'm saying something that's quite obvious, but like, you know, there's the mantras of champion teams beat teams of champions, and everybody knows that. But more what I mean is like, you can take a team that has essentially no stars in it, and if you coach them right, you make them stars. And then in one season, you look like Penrith. Like these players all have high ceilings. If you're a good enough coach and you know how to extract maximum value out of each of them individually, and that's what makes somebody like Wayne Bennett a champion. And like Wayne Bennett's an individual man-to-man coach. Craig Bellamy does it with his whole system because he has this one-to-many approach where he's like, when I bring somebody in here and they just like absorb the system, they improve. And it's a slightly different approach, but it's the same thing, really. It's knowing that you can turn anybody into a champion if you just know what you're doing. And with, like I said, mentioned to you last week, we're seeing signs of that with Benji and the way he manages the young players. It would be great if, like, he was able to also handle the older players, but potentially the problem with that might be that he's a bit young for a coach, so he's a bit too much of a peer with the experienced players, and they might not
Very
actually
true.
have that level of respect for him necessary. But back to your question, yes, it is. It is a team. Any team is capable if you get stuff like that right, and if you can turn only 3 or 4 of them into the best versions of themselves, and then the whole rest of the team get them to the point where they're a quality role player. You've got a top 8 side just doing that, and I think we've got Luai and we've got Galvin, and if we can get Buller back to his best, and we can get max out of Appy Coruscant, and we get the rest of them up to NRL standard, and not necessarily even much higher, you can make the top 8 with that team.
Well said, hey, mate. I think with that, it's time to leave it.
Yeah,
Mate, thank you. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for everybody that joined us today. For those of you that don't know, Mac is reporting live from a hotel room in Adelaide. So, mate, go and enjoy the local nightlife in the city of Churches.
Yeah, the Wednesday night life in Adelaide goes off.
That's the way. Surely there'll be some sort of uni night going on. Where we'll review the backs next week. The week after will be the spine, and we should have a departures list by next week. So we'll be able to talk about that a little bit as well.
Sounds good. Shout out pinch payments one more time.
Shout out Pinch. I should have said it at the top. Shout out Pinch. All right. Talk to you soon. Thanks, guys. See you, Mac.
See ya.
Bye.